Hi, Mary Amato here with Game On, the first in the Star Striker series. I'm going to read a little bit of this book for you today. I'm excited to share it. The day aliens abducted Albert Kinney happened to be the day he was trying out for his middle school soccer team. Actually, it was the third and final day of tryouts, and as Albert and the other 7th graders were warming up with a run around the track, his mind was racing. But it wasn't because he knew that a dangerous and extraordinary mission was about to bring him to the Fueger solar system. Like the rest of you on Earth, he didn't know the planets in that system even existed. Albert's mind was racing because he was thinking about his soccer career. If he didn't get on the school team in 7th grade, he couldn't possibly make the 8th grade team. And if he wasn't on the 8th grade team, forget about playing in high school or college or having any hope for happiness. That's the way life works for you too. You think the most important thing in the world is that tryout or that math quiz or whatever, and you don't even see the huge tornado coming your way. That's the opening section. And then it goes into the next section. This book doesn't really have traditional chapters. It has these little sections. So now you're going to be plunged into tryouts with Albert. Eyes on the track, Albert jogged. "Hi, Albert," Freddie Mills said, approaching him on his left. "Hey," Albert said, immediately turning on the heat. Freddie was slow, which meant Albert's own pace must have fallen. A kind of lightheadedness came over Albert, and he wondered if he was having a panic attack. It's the final days of tryouts, he thought, and I'll probably pass out during the warm-up. He pushed through it, though, and increased his pace, catching up with Trey Patterson and his pack. And then Trey pointed out Albert's yellow soccer socks and shin guards and said, "You got chicken legs, Kinney." It was a ridiculous, immature joke. Who cared what color his socks and shin guards were? And yet the guys actually laughed. Trey Patterson. A year ago, Trey would have been running by his side, not making fun of him. All their lives, Trey and Albert had been next-door neighbors and friends. Not heart-to-heart friends, they were too different for that. But they had grown up playing soccer together and had a great connection as teammates. First in Albert's yard, then in the park down the street, and then as the 2 strongest stars in their recreational league, and finally last year as the stars of the same travel team. At the beginning of the summer, though, Trey left for a 6-week soccer camp, the first camp experience the boys didn't share, and he came back transformed. A growth spurt combined with new training changed not only Trey's body, but also his mind. He informed Albert that he was quitting their old travel team to play in a more serious league. That wasn't the surprise. Trey had always been competitive. The surprise was the condescension and contempt in his voice. Trey, for no good reason, had turned mean. And now some of the other guys, impressed by Trey's bulked up physique, were siding with him. And that was messing with Albert's mind. "Balk," Trey called out, and the guys laughed again. "Not funny," Freddie called from behind. After 5 humiliating laps, each pass punctuated by balking from Trey, the coach split the group into 4 teams for simultaneous scrimmages, and Albert's heart sank even more. His name was called for Team C. Trey and Raul and all the other skilled players were on teams A and B. Honestly, Albert knew he had a better sense of the field than Trey or Raul. They were both strong, but Raul couldn't kick the ball with his left foot to save his life. And lately, Trey hogged the ball and took risky shots for personal glory, rather than seeing the passes that would pay off. "It's over," muttered a player on Team D. "Mr. Perez is crazy," Freddie assigned to Team C whispered. "Everybody knows you should be on Team A, Albert." "Perez hates me," Albert muttered. Unfortunately, it was true. Right before school had started, the old coach had left and tapped Mr. Perez to take his place. Mr. Perez had been Albert's history teacher in 6th grade and had been, in Albert's opinion, criminally boring. If Albert had known that he'd have to impress Perez this year, he would have tried harder last year. Yesterday, when they did drills, Perez praised the others and didn't say a word to Albert, even though Albert knew he had done well. When the whistle blew to start the scrimmages, Albert tried to shake off his anxiety and come out hot. He was playing center forward, his favorite position, and that boosted his confidence. In the first 5 minutes, he had 3 shots on goal and set up 2 chances that resulted in 2 more shots on goal, all of which Mr. Perez missed because he was watching teams A and B. Still, Albert kept firing. In the 9th minute, he pressured Teams D left outside back to force a bad pass into the midfield. Freddie was actually in the right place at the right time and somehow delivered a solid pass to Albert. In the nanosecond before Albert received the ball, he glanced around. No defenders on either side. He took a couple of touches to the inside and ripped it. Goal! Yes, he yelled, hoping Mr. Perez would tear his attention away from teams A and B to look. His teammates cheered, and Mr. Perez glanced over. A quick, distracted nod was all the coach gave. And then he called out his announcement for the scrimmages to end and told them the last drill they'd do, shots on goal. Albert felt his spirits lift. This was his final chance to show what he knew to be true, that he deserved to play on the team. All right, that was the end of the next section. I'm going to read one more very short section. And this section comes from the point of view of the dog who lives next door to Albert. Here we go. The dog, a muscular ridgeback named Tackle, that lived next to Albert Kinney and belonged to Trey Patterson, stood still, eyeing the furry thing in the tree. Oh, the thing looked like a squirrel, and it climbed like a squirrel, and it jumped like a squirrel, but it didn't pee, didn't eat, and Tackle made a sudden dash, leaping up onto the trunk and barking at it sharply. See? The thing didn't run, didn't even move. Tackle sniffed. Not a whiff of fear. He sniffed again. The scent it exuded was faint but detectable. A scent similar to the Patterson's cell phones. Grrr, he didn't trust it. Didn't trust it for a second. To be clear, Tackle was 100% ordinary Earth dog. That you're witnessing his intellect in action here doesn't mean he came from another planet or had technologically enhanced abilities. Whether you're aware of it or not, animals think. You just can't always hear them. That said, there is a range of intelligence in dogs, just as there is in humans, and it can be safely said that Tackle's was above average. Normally, he didn't bother with squirrels, strangers, package delivery persons, approaching storms, unusual vehicular sounds, changes in the way people smelled, an occasional rat, and one particularly aggressive neighborhood raccoon. These were his priorities. To protect not just the Pattersons, but also the Kinneys next door. But to be honest, this was work that typically used only a fraction of his brawn and brain to resolve. The 4-footed furball in the tree, it was getting the better of him. He began to pace. That squirrel thing had arrived at some point before school started, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Tackle wasn't great with time, but he had noticed it right away and had been watching it ever since. Not just watching. He had tried to catch it numerous times since then, only to be outmaneuvered. Now that school had started, the thing tended to perch in 2 favorite spots. One was the maple tree closest to the street, which it hung out in when school was in session. The other was a sweet gum tree on the side of the Pattersons' yard, whose limbs reached over the fence to Albert's house. For some mysterious reason, the creature seemed to be obsessed with Albert. When Albert came home from school, it would settle itself on the limb of the sweet gum tree that was closest to Albert's bedroom window and perch like a statue. Without success, Tackle had tried to warn Albert and had tried to get Trey's help. Neither of the boys understood what he was barking about. Today, he was going to show them. He stopped pacing and shook out his muscles, his glossy reddish-brown coat gleaming in the afternoon sunlight. Yep, today he had a plan. When Albert came home and the thing jumped onto the fence top, Tackle was going to be ready. He would finally grab that freak in his jaws. You've been introduced to a few characters and to a few predicaments, some mysteries, and I hope you enjoy reading the book to find out what happens.